Hi, everyone, and happy Wednesday. Welcome to my second powerful conversation with a powerful woman. I've started this series because I'm really passionate about sharing stories of inspiring women that are just out there to make a change in the world and to be a positive influence and a role model for us all. And I met Arletta through LinkedIn, and we had an amazing conversation just yesterday and really kicked off with each other. So welcome, Arletta. It's lovely to have you here. And maybe you want to start by just introducing yourself a bit.
Well, hello everybody out there. My name is Arletta Allen, and I'm absolutely ecstatic to be here with you, Claire. Thank you so much for the invitation. And just a little bit about myself. I'm a professional speaker. I've also done the TEDx speaker platform. I have traveled all over the U.S., inspiring, uplifting, and encouraging women from all walks of life. I have 5 sons. I'm a mom, big time, and
Yeah.
I also teach people how to transition from trauma in life to triumph in life. And so that is my mission. I'm actually on a mission to help as many women as possible to defy the odds in their lives, because many of us were born with the odds stacked against us. But I'm a living witness that when you actually push through and you persevere and you take ownership of your journey, that you can absolutely achieve anything. So thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah, my pleasure. I mean, it's just even that intro is inspiring, and you can just see the inspiration oozing out of you, which is like really cool. But tell me, because obviously, if you're helping people through trauma, there must be a difficult story that sits behind that. So, are you open to sharing, what you feel comfortable sharing of that story with us?
Oh, absolutely. I think one of the biggest ways of opening the door for healing as women is to be truthful upfront about where it hurt. And I think that most times as women, we try so hard to build up walls to try to protect ourselves from those things ever occurring again that sometimes we oftentimes get stuck. And so I'm a woman that has faced off with so many different traumatic events in my life. But I will say this, um, just as of late, just this past week, Monday, I celebrated, not really celebrating, I should say I acknowledged the anniversary of the loss of my business.
Mm-hmm.
And this happened only a year ago, where I completely lost everything. I had invested over $140,000 into a business which represented my culture from Yazoo City, Mississippi, which is, of course, in the USA. And it has like Southern style culture and food. And where I was living in up north was not accustomed to that type of food. So I wanted to bring diversity and culture to the region in which I was living. And in a matter of months, only after being open for months, my building caught on fire, which was not my building. I did not own the building. I only leased the building. So the insurance payout and everything went to the owner of the building. And I walked away with nothing but debt and devastation and a broken heart. Because, see, I'm a woman that also comes from the background of poverty. I come from nothing. And in other words, my mother was just like almost like a magician in the kitchen, because she could always take a whole lot of nothing and make a whole lot of something out of it. And that's the tradition that I brought to that restaurant. It was supposed to be a legacy for my mother. And
Yeah.
so, because of that, I shared all of our amazing recipes, and I inspired people by going live each and every day to tell them the different types of foods I had made on social media. And so, I had invested basically my heart and soul into this business. And in a matter of moments, all of that was shattered. I
Yeah.
went from thinking I had it figured out to all of a sudden I have nothing. I'm holding nothing in my hands. And so, that devastation took me to a place of darkness, which once again was traumatic for me, even to the point of comprehending or thinking on suicide. And the reason why it was is because I had literally invested the livelihood of my family. Every dollar and cent that I had, I put into the restaurant. And because it was just under that year mark where most restaurants, you don't see a return on your investment in that first year, I hadn't seen a return. I was actually further in debt than I was ahead. And so it shattered me. And I thought to myself, okay, you can't afford to take care of your family. You can't afford to make sure bills are paid. How are you going to keep a roof over your head? I'm thinking about the fact I'm going to lose my own home. I mean, and just devastation all around me at that point. And I could not see my way through. And it took for a friend who recalled that before I became a restaurant owner, that I was a motivational speaker. And she said, you've got to get back to your purpose. You've got to own your power once again, because the person that you are suffering from the pain of this, that's not who you are, because your circumstances do not define who you are. And she says, Arletta, I'm going to need you to get up. I'm going to need you to get up from where you are. And she says, you know, I got an event taking place in Los Cabos, Mexico in a couple of weeks if you want to come there and get your feet back wet. But she was offering all these things. So I said that to say this. Sometimes in life, we as women, we have to support each other. We have to build each other up, because had she not reached for me in that very dark, deep place, I would have sat there and possibly wilted away, and even have chosen the latter of taking my own life, because I couldn't see my way out. And so this is what the type of events that my life has been like literally made up of since I was a little girl. Like one traumatic event after the other. If it wasn't for my father and his abusive tendencies, and that's why I advocate today for domestic violence awareness. And it's because of, I watched my father daily beat my mother. And when he was not beating her, he was beating us. And he did some like unthinkable things. And I'm not talking about like sexual violence. I'm talking about just harmful, violent nature. I mean, setting us in corners, making me stand up all night in a corner with my nose buried because I'm afraid to leave the corner. And he tells me not to move. But then if I'm there all night and I'm afraid to move, I'm not going to the restroom either. So I would stand and sleep in a corner and wake up soaked in my own feces and my own urine. And these are memories that I have as a child, traumatizing memories that remind me of the fact that although you would like to believe that we're all accustomed to having this healthy life, there are so many people out there that show up in spaces pretending to be something else and pretending like they're okay, literally masking to be in the workplace, masking to show up for you, and their world is falling apart behind the scenes. I carried these traumas with me. And because I carried them for so long, they became damaging until it was almost like a meltdown. It took completely for me to just begin to unpack the emotional baggage that was attached to me. And so because I endured my own battle, it also enhanced the compassion and the love that I have for other people who may have suffered through that type of trauma. I look at women who suffer through childhood trauma. I look at women who have come through abusive relationships. I look at women who've dealt with narcissistic sociopaths for months and years and have lost their identity. I'm looking for the women that are looking in the mirror at themselves and asking herself, what happened to her?
Yeah.
Because you lose your identity in just trying to keep it together. And it's all a falsehood. So I found solace in practicing authenticity. I found solace in being me, because I was never validated for who I was. And so that's only that was heavy. And I apologize to everybody out there. I know that it was probably triggering for some that may be watching, but this is my truth. These are the things that I've had to endure that made me into the woman that I am today. And it's the reason why I'm so passionate for finding you.
And I think it's really, I mean, thank you for sharing and for sharing so authentically, because I think I have this sense that people want to be able to share those stories that authentically, but they're worried about what other people are going to think of them or what might happen when they do that. What sort of advice would you give people that are feeling that?
I would give people the advice that they should consider either professional help, because that is the number one thing. I had to seek out professional help to get myself through where I got stuck. Because the truth is that the older I got, in my mentality, I was still stuck back in that corner, where my dad hurt me. And what it does oftentimes is it stunts our growth. We're not able to really get to that level because there's blocks. There's things keeping us from elevating because of the heaviness of the things that we've endured. So my number one suggestion will always be, and in lieu of being aware of mental health and how important it is for women, for us to be able to take care of ourselves. Remember that you're no good to anyone else unless you learn how to put yourself first. You've got to learn to keep your mental health and what it means to be complete and total as a woman. You've got to keep that on the forefront. And the only way to do that is to reach back for someone who may have further insight than you do. I had to admit that I did not have the answers, that I had been living in survival mode, that I had been in fight or flight mode for years. And I had to get myself to a safe space where I could unpack that. So my advice, find someone that you can trust and confide in. I'm hoping above all that it's someone who is clinically able to sit there and actually give you the professional resolve that you need to be able to unpack that while you're safe. Because those triggers are enormous. And you can't really say until you begin to really speak it out loud what your response will be. So that would be my number one suggestion. Seek out professional help to unpack the excess baggage that you've been carrying all those years.
And you mentioned as well having your friends that really helped pull you out of post fire, out of this place that you were in at that point in time. How instrumental was that in? I mean, it sounds like it was key to you realizing that you had to do something. What sort of advice would you have for people that are in the situation, but they just don't know who they should speak to about this problem, or that if they don't have friends that are willing to be as forthright with what they need, what they know their friend needs?
Yes. I would say that on the inside of every one of us, and you may choose to tap into it, or you can choose to allow for it to lie dormant. But every woman that is watching, I need you to know that working on the inside of you is a power that cannot be quenched. And even when you feel like you're on your last straw, you're at your last point where you cannot evolve, there's always more. There's always that power that's working on the inside of you. And what I like to utilize is I think about the times that I've struggled and the things that I've gone through. I actually applied a power framework to my ability to be able to overcome the struggles that I've gone through. I recognize the fact that in order for me to implement power, I was going to have to face off with the fact that I was going to have to persevere. There were some things that were ugly, not so pretty in my life that I was going to have to overcome. I was going to have to push through until I break through to the other side. I needed to be optimistic and to take ownership of where it broke, where it hurt, what happened. And the only way that you can do that is by laying all your cards out on the table, being unashamed, no matter how deep it is. Because I'm telling you, beyond a restaurant, beyond childhood trauma, I also prostituted at the age of 15 for survival. So to have to come to terms with all of that, I spent the bulk of my childhood in normative conformity. And for you, those of you who may not be familiar with what normative conformity is where you're willing to do just about anything to feel a sense of belonging. I grew up in a predominantly white area where no one looked like me. And so I was convinced that there was something wrong with me because I didn't look like the people around me. And because of that, I was willing to deny myself in order to try to fit in with them, whatever it was, just to have them welcome me to sit down at a table with them meant that much to me. I was willing to try to dress like them. I was willing to try to talk like them. I was willing to try to do something with my kinky hair to try to make it represent theirs. That wasn't possible, just so you know. It wasn't possible for me to take my kinky coil and turn it into their hair, because theirs were more likely bone straight. It just wasn't happening for me. But lesson learned at a young age is that I was willing to do just about anything just to feel validated, to feel appreciated, and to feel loved. Yeah. In that moment where I struggled to get up off the ground after the tragic loss of my restaurant, that friend that tapped into me, she was only a piece of the story. She was a piece of the story. And yes, what it did is it triggered a memory. It reminded me of who I am. And sometimes people will come along on this journey. It could be me and Claire right now talking to you. That reminds you of the power that you house. It reminds you of the strength and the courage that you have working on the inside that maybe you've allowed to lie dormant. Maybe you're sitting in a situation right now where you've got to make some tough decisions. Recognize that you must persevere. Recognize that you must take ownership, and recognize the fact that it's going to take work. Yeah. You're going to have to invest your energy in the right places, and you're going to have to be resilient, because all of us get knocked down. But it's not about how many times you get knocked down. It's about how you come back swinging, baby. You got to get back up, because somebody out there needs you. I got up from every knockdown because somebody out here needs me. There's somebody waiting to hear my story. There's somebody else who needs to hear that if I can get back up from all of that, they for sure can get back up from the fall they just took.
Yeah. And I think that's what's really inspirational. I mean, I feel so grateful listening to your story that I haven't endured any of those traumas that you've been through, and you know, I wouldn't wish them upon anybody. But I see you there, and the passion and your inner power coming through. And I know that we all have that in us. I know that I have it in me, and I'm still uncovering it. And I know there are so many women out there who have compromised so many areas of their lives, that are running around pleasing others and doing all of these roles and things that they believe they have to do, and they're denying their power. They're denying the real impact and change they can have on the world to make this world a better place. So I mean, this is something that should be stirring something in all women out there. We're all amazing, wonderful, beautiful humans.
Yes. And I'm a strong believer also that none of us arrive alone. That along on your journey, you're going to meet someone somewhere that is going to ignite something in you that is going to carry you the rest of the way.
Yeah.
We don't do it on our own. There were people that met me along the way, like the friend I described, that pulled me out the pit when I had gotten my warm and fuzzy blanket and started hanging up pictures on the walls in the bottomless pit. She told me to unpack. That's not where you belong.
Yeah.
That's not who you are. And sometimes our circumstances will attempt to define us. And I'm here to tell you, that's not who you are. There's something so powerful working on the inside of you. And the only request I would have is that you tap in. You tap in, and not just for the betterment of yourself, but for the betterment of those that are waiting on you to get up.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree. I think life throws us events, life throws us people, and from all of those opportunities, we learn something, and there's something to take away from everything that we do. And all of those opportunities together make us into stronger, greater people. But often we just don't give ourselves the time and the space to be ourselves.
Yes.
Space to explore what is within and what really fulfills us from within.
Yes. And a lot of times it's because someone else has defined that for us.
Yeah.
And we as women, we are like so notorious for putting everyone and everything in front of us. It's almost like we're born with this innate ability to put ourselves in first place. Many of us call it something other than what it is. We'll call it nurturing. You know, my children need me, and so I'm always gonna do what my children need or what I feel is best for them, but I'm gonna run myself ragged in the process.
Yeah.
I'm going to be submissive to my husband in every way, which I have no problem with a woman choosing to be submissive to her husband. Absolutely not. But not at the risk of losing yourself.
Yeah.
Because you're an individual.
Yeah.
And what's unique about you, he does not bring to the world. She does not bring to the world. You actually bring that. Only you have the ability to add that piece of salt to the earth.
Yeah.
They can't do it for you.
Yeah.
And so I believe that as women, it's so important that we take the time to really get to the bottom of who we are authentically.
Yeah.
Because if you never learn to actually know who you are authentically, it makes it almost impossible for you to reach the pinnacle, to reach that place in life that you're striving to get to.
Yeah. It just doesn't work. It doesn't feel, it doesn't feel right.
No, it doesn't. And then plus it's almost like you're waking up every day lying to yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're lying because you're
wrong around it.
You're not really being who you are. You're showing up being who you think people want you to be.
Yeah.
And that's a horrible place to live. And I know this because I've lived it.
Yeah. And I think we all have an element of that in us. We all have something in our lives where we're probably living inauthentically. And but the freedom of living authentically, the feeling of lightness that it gives, the joy it gives is really something that's worth pursuing.
Yes. Yes, I agree. Yeah. And I guess that's where things kind of took that turn for me, is that I learned to celebrate me. I'm talking about wounds, scars, flaws, and all.
Yeah.
When I recognized that there was something unique, a unique quality about me. And when I began to stop putting myself down like those around me, there's already people surrounding you that tie themselves up with trying to diminish you, trying to put you down and place you in a box. So then why are we choosing to do it to ourselves?
Yeah.
That space is already occupied. Like that place of employment is already preoccupied by others who are vouching for it.
Yeah.
They don't want to see you make it. They don't want to see you actually step into your truth. So why are you being the one who is adding that much more pain to your plate? You've got to break free. You've got to. And show up as you. And look, listen, I always like to say, be unapologetic. Like, stop apologizing for being yourself. Because you're unique.
Yeah.
And amazing. And you add something to the world that no one else can.
Yeah.
There's no one that can take your place. And I think that's incredible. When you think about it, really, really think about it, how unique we are. Like, look at how cute Claire is with her short haircut. Like, how adorable is she? And then on top of that, I have my kinky braids, but it's unique. It's what's unique about us. It's what we bring to the table. It's who we are. And she doesn't have to show up and be anyone else, and I don't have to show up and be anyone else. We just have to show up in our own individual power. And guess what? That's enough.
Yeah. And it's an utter miracle that we're all here. It's an utter miracle that our lives have led out the way they have. And it's impossible for there to be somebody else out there that's like you. And there's that saying, isn't there, about don't don't aspire to be like somebody else, just be the best version of yourself.
That's right.
And I think many people waste a lot of time trying to be like somebody else, when if they put all that attention into loving themselves and putting themselves first, just imagine if we all loved ourselves as much as the love we're able to give, how much more love we would be able to give.
Yes,
because it wouldn't be held back. There would be no boundaries to it.
I agree, 150%.
Yeah,
150%. I agree.
Yeah. So what's on the cards for Arletta? What have you got happening in the next year, so that this time next year you've got even more to show for what you've been up to?
Well, when I thought about it, I was like, okay, in the next, let's say 5 to 10 years, I plan to, number one, become a New York Times bestselling author. I have already written 2 books. And so my plan is to take the book that's coming out in mid-November, and it's called Defying the Odds, Transitioning from Trauma to Triumph. It is it gets down to the nitty-gritty, and it tells my whole story. So not bits and pieces of me, but the places where I broke, but then also it's going to shine a light on who I am today and how I became her. And so I want to get that story out there, and I want to charge people with knowing how to make the transition just like I did. We all have our own path, but there's always that commonality there. How did they do it? If I did, you can too. I also plan to continue my mission of helping others who have suffered through their traumatic experiences. So I want to find more stages. I want to get to many more who advocate for domestic violence awareness. I want to find those that focus on women and the support of women and the elevation of women. I have to do my homework and find the more positions where I can stand on stages and be able to share my story and encourage other women. So that's definitely on my list of things to do. Exciting. And also, I plan to walk fully in my purpose unapologetically.
Love it.
I know who I am. There's no stopping me.
Yeah. I'm going to take that one on as well. Unapologetically.
Yes.
I love that. Really, really love that.
Yes. Because we got to change the world. That's what we're here to do. And we change the world by adding value to others. So I want to know how can I serve? What is it about me that can add value to your organization or add value to you as an individual, as a person? What can I do to help?
Yeah.
And so I want to spend the next 5, 10 years, 15, 20, 30, until it's time for me to go home.
Yeah.
I want to spend my life loving on people and helping people to elevate in their personal lives and professional lives.
Yeah. So one of the questions I had was to ask you if there's a motto that you live by, and I imagine you're going to have maybe that's too much pressure to put on, but I imagine you have a really good motto to live by. You kind of alluded to a few things that you might live by.
See, now this is the crazy part. I do not live by a motto.
Okay.
I don't. But I will tell you this. I'm a Christian girl, and so I absolutely love God. And I love the principles of loving people, understanding that it is my goal and my dream to actually love people. That's my ministry. And so because of that, I live by the principles that are distributed in the Bible. That's how I live my life, through love. That's me.
Yeah.
But there is a quote that I normally use from the stage that has helped me to be able to continue my journey. And it's a quote by American poet Maya Angelou. And it says, there's no greater agony than bearing an untold story on the inside of you. And so with that, I carry that quote with me to every stage, to every encounter, because people oftentimes are ashamed of their story. They're ashamed of what they've endured. But the even greater agony is walking around carrying that.
Yeah.
And not being made free from that. And so I'm not only on a mission to help set others free, I'm on a mission to share my story so that they can be made free.
Yeah.
And so every opportunity that I'm given to step on a stage and to share with them where I've come from and where God has taken me, I take the opportunity and I take it with pride.
Yeah.
Unashamed.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, no, that's really, really powerful. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. I have some quick fire questions for you, which I didn't let you know in advance what they are going to be.
Oh no.
They're not difficult, I promise.
Okay.
I promise. Okay. So, glass half empty or half full?
Half full.
Early bird or night owl?
Night owl.
Strict routine or last minute chaos?
Last minute chaos. That one I didn't even have to think about because that happens to me all the time.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Online calendar or paper diary?
Online calendar.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. I just think those questions just give a little bit of insight into all of us. Just me and my slight quirks.
Yes. I think a person like me who just absolutely loves social platforms too. I've created so many different avenues as an influencer to be out here where I actually share online all the time. So it's just, it's easier for me to post online and just be out here and say, hey, this is what's going on. And this is how, it happened. And I'm very open and very authentic, and people gravitate towards that. And it gives me joy to be able to share those pieces with people.
Yeah. And you're so easy to talk to. It's a complete and utter joy to talk to you. So
thank you.
I'm very pleased to have met you. I'm very pleased that you said that you would join me today as well. Is there anything else, any words of wisdoms that you would like to finish with?
Well, I would like to just once again be more of an encouragement to, in particular, the women out there that are watching. I want you to know that you're not defined by your circumstances, not even the ones that you are presently standing in. You'll always be defined by how well you navigate through them, how well you get to the other side. And when it comes to platforms like these, I want to be the one who encourages you to take that next step. And when you feel like you have nothing left, there's always a bit more working on the inside. I dare you to reach down and grab it and take one more step, because that one more step could very well be the pinnacle. It could be the thing that sets you apart from here on out. And I don't want you to get so close and not take the leap. Yeah. So I'm here to encourage you in that, whatever it may be, take the leap. And for the first time in your life, choose you. Yeah. Because above all else, without you, there is nothing else.
Yeah.
Choose you.
Yeah. Choose you. Love it. Yeah, that's really powerful. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Arletta. It's been a complete pleasure. I hope the audience have enjoyed it. And maybe we'll talk again soon.
Yes, that sounds amazing. Thank you so much for having me here.
My pleasure.